How did you choose this topic in the first place?
That's a funny story, actually, because it started with Facebook comment sections. So I was scrolling.
If the trust is cracked, where do we stand? Who keeps score when the facts land? This is media in the margins. Media in the margins.
Okay, my transparency statement. Hello.
Yes.
Welcome. Just so you know and the audience knows, this podcast approaches journalism as a public evolving process rather than a finished product. We treat knowledge making as something that's developed through dialogue, not delivered as final authority. And while we retain editorial control, our goal is to make parts of the process visible in its uncertainties, its limits, and its revisions over time. So corrections and updates will be documented in the show notes. And for context, I am currently affiliated with OsloMet University in the Department of Photojournalism. This conversation is being recorded on April 9th, 2026. And with that, let's begin. For this conversation, we'll focus on what happens to journalism when it's compressed into platform native formats like TikTok, and how that reshapes both audience understanding and the future of visual journalism. Drawing on your research, I want to explore what's gained, what's lost, and how your generation is navigating that tension. And for us today, we have a special guest, Benjamin Haug-Toklum. Can you correct me my pronunciation, please?
Benjamin Haug-Toklum.
Haug-Toklum.
Yes.
Is that closer? Okay.
That's closer. Yeah, very good.
Thank you. I have a little bio written for you. Benjamin is a second-year photojournalism student at OsloMet whose work examines how news is shaped and understood through short-form video. His recent research analyzes how major Norwegian media outlets frame news on TikTok, focusing on how platform-specific storytelling influences audience perception and journalistic practice. Is that fair? Do you have something you want to add?
Well, that seems like you covered it pretty good.
What are you working on now? What creative project are you working on?
So right now we have the subject Documentary Norway, in which I'm currently in Tromsø, working on tourism as a theme. So as we all know, or maybe all know, Tromsø has a lot of tourists recently. So it's a heated topic here in the city.
And so you're looking at how to represent that visually?
Yes.
Are you doing documentary or photo?
I'm doing documentary, so making a short movie.
Excellent. All right, so we'll look forward to that from you in the future. Do you want to jump into lightning round questions?
Feel free.
Okay. So I'm curious, just you personally, where do you get your news?
There's 3 places really. I have the apps for like NRK and VG downloaded on my phone, so I see the pop-up notifications, and also I scroll through Facebook every now and then I get the local newspapers and big newspapers and everything also in my feed there. And then there's social media, like other social media like TikTok and Instagram, where news outlets are present and are publishing quite frequently.
So not to put you on the spot, but for perspective, what year were you born?
In 2003.
And are you getting all of your news digitally? And would you say it's mostly like, are you listening to podcasts? Are you looking at videos? Are you looking at text or a combination?
I'm not a very podcast person really, so I don't really listen to podcasts, but I do watch the short form content that is published on TikTok, for example. And then I mostly read the website for each news outlets. So I don't read the paper, the physical paper. That I do
Right.
not do.
Okay. And how do you know what to trust? Especially, I'm talking about outside of legacy media content. How do you know what's trustworthy on social media as far as news?
It's difficult to say really how to how to know what is really trustworthy. There are some independent content creators, of course, that do publish news. And the way I know that I can trust them in large regard, that is because they do not create their own news. They mostly repost other newspapers.
Okay, so kind of they curate the news for you, citing legacy media sources.
Yes.
Okay. And so how long would you say you've been looking at these content creators? Is it in the last 6 months, a year, 2 years? Can you put kind of a time frame on it? I'm curious, how long have you found yourself following these news content creators?
Probably for 2 to 3 or 4 years. I probably downloaded TikTok around 4 years ago from then.
Okay. Do you know
Yeah.
any off the top of your head that you would consider trustworthy?
Main person that I get in my feed is called News Daddy. So Dylan Page is a British content creator, and he cites legacy news and retells their story on TikTok in a engaging way.
Yeah, that's what I was curious. What appeals about his content to you?
I think that it's about brand building or personality building. Some of the research that I read with my bachelor's thesis stated that on TikTok, building your brand or personality is important to the algorithm. So that makes them get pushed to you. And I think that's also why I get him pushed to me and I watch it. And it's also the only way that I get international news from other sources than Norwegian outlets. So I don't watch CNN or those outlets very much. So that way I can get perspectives from outside of Norway in a different way.
I teach in English. Most of my students' primary language is Norwegian. And if we translate that kind of to media, Dylan Page, primary language is English. Norwegian content coming out of legacy media is primarily Norwegian. Does that matter to you, or how do you think about that as far as language as a component?
I don't think I've considered language as a component really in the choice there of what I pay attention to. But I mean the English language has a lot of in some ways possibility to be more detailed than Norwegian. So that might have something to say.
So it doesn't, so you kind of go seamlessly, are you saying, between the two? Or are there any other languages that, that fit into your consideration? Or is it seamless between English and Norwegian for you?
To me, it's quite seamless between English and Norwegian, and I don't speak any other languages. So with that level of fluency.
I'm just thinking out loud. Like, is it curious that most of the legacy Norwegian media brands are doing their content in Norwegian, or do you think they'd reach a larger audience in English? Or is that just not something I'm just thought processing here, and I'm curious your perspective on it, because I mean, I'm not Norwegian, so you're my Norwegian perspective right now.
I'm not sure it would benefit the Norwegian media to speak English in their videos because they want to reach a Norwegian audience, I assume, right? But if they chose to do English, they could probably reach a larger audience. For example, the Norwegian police on TikTok, they have made English content and they've gone absolutely viral in the entire world. So it's very interesting.
Do you know one of the posts? Can you describe it to me that went viral?
I don't recall exactly. It was probably like a dance and then some funny caption about something people do or police do.
Well, I'll look for it and see if I can't
Yeah.
find it, include it, and link it below. That's a good example, though, of you wouldn't think the Norwegian police would have a reason to necessarily reach an English audience, but I remember something coming up in my feed a while ago, so I will look into that. But I guess this is a good way to kind of segue into more of your research and your content. And with that, I do want to define, I'm curious how you would define independent creator journalists or journalism.
How I would define it?
Yeah.
I think independent journalism can be defined in different ways. Obviously, there's the citation aspect of it, where they just cite the legacy media. But then there are also content creators that do features on people. They go out and meet different people. For example, the Norwegian creator Ole Bergseth, he goes out and he's been meeting with the store workers and getting their story about how it's like working in the store. So there's also that aspect of it, which isn't necessarily breaking news, but some more long format content that goes more in depth about people,
human kind of interaction.
Yeah, like human touch or human interest.
Can you type his name into the chat for me?
Yes.
And I'll link in the show notes to people want to check out. As you kind of think to the future with graduation, how are you looking at future potential employment? Are you considering independent content creation, entrepreneurship? Are you considering full-time job, or how you see that kind of playing out?
It's difficult to say because the future is very unknown, but I am considering freelancing for media outlets or private actors, and that could be content creation, which is absolutely interesting. I think a lot of people would prefer a stable job, but it's also, from what I've heard and understood, it's also not that easy to get into in this field. I think photojournalism is going to continue to be important with the rise of AI, meaning that nothing else can be created, or you can't create a physical meet with someone, or photos from the actual scene of something happening. That's not possible. But what you can do with AI is write text, for example. So that would mean that the visual part of journalism would be even more important, making photojournalism have an edge in that market, though, per se, potentially.
After doing your research, did it change your perspective on photojournalism at all, or the future of photojournalism?
So my research didn't go very much in depth about the field as a whole in that way. Mostly related to social media is what I did. But I think it's interesting to understand how the visual things that are in a video, in a short form video, affects the viewer. So someone with our background can learn to analyze it and how to create meaning through the visual. And one of the points that I found in my research is that short form content is obviously, because it's a lot shorter, you can't include all the details, which means that visual elements play a larger role in creating the final interpretation of the meaning that is created in the video.
Because I want to jump into your paper. I'm going to give a brief summary in English, but feel free to add in a couple things if it's very kind of summarized in general, but just give people an idea about your thesis. How many pages was it in total?
Without the extras, it was 23.
Okay. About 23 pages of text. So here we go. Benjamin's thesis investigates how Norwegian national media, this includes NRK or NRK, TV2, TV2, Vega, VG, and Dagbladet, adapt news content for TikTok, and how this framing compares to their corresponding written articles using a qualitative multimodal analysis of video article pairs. The study finds that TikTok news is typically more compressed, visually driven, and emotionally framed, with stronger emphasis on conflict and human interest elements, emotion. While the underlying stories often remain the same, TikTok versions tend to reduce nuance, include fewer sources, and present a more simplified interpretation of events. The findings suggest that platform-driven storytelling may make news more accessible, particularly for younger audiences, but also risk narrowing understanding and reducing complexity in public knowledge formation. Is that fair? Is there anything you'd like to add?
No, that seems like you covered it pretty good.
So I'll include it if someone wants to, as we say, play along and read your paper. Are you planning any additional research in this area, or is it kind of a one-time study right now?
Well, I'll have to wait until I potentially do a master's, but we'll see about that.
To be continued.
Yes.
Okay. How did you choose this topic in the first place?
That's a funny story, actually, because it started with Facebook comment sections. So I was scrolling Facebook, and I've done it regularly, and it's always incredibly funny to read the comment sections under news outlets publishing on Facebook, because there's just a bunch of people making statements or rants, and then people answer, but just read the paper, just read the article, and you'll understand it. And that made me think, how is the initial presentation on Facebook? How does that correspond with the article? How does that nuance work? And then I swapped it over to TikTok, though, for practical reasons, because it will be incredibly difficult with my knowledge to extract all the information from Facebook, and then over to their articles. And I also think TikTok is a lot more relevant today, with it being young persons, one of the young people's preferred platforms to get their news.
That makes sense. When you decided on the 4 media outlets that you were going to look at, how did you make that choice? And then how many total pairs of data points did you look at?
So I looked at 12 total data points, or videos and corresponding articles. I chose these 4 outlets, like NRK, TV2, VG, and Dagbladet, because they don't have paywalls on all their content, or most of their content. So they are easily accessible. They are national media, so they publish stuff from all over Norway and international news. And with their size, my thought was that they could potentially, what they choose to do is going to influence local newspapers and their decisions in regards to TikTok, because smaller outlets would copy the bigger ones, the methods. So I thought it would give a representative view on how the work is done across the media landscape in Norway.
Did you find anything unique or fascinating as far as similarities or differences between the outlets?
The biggest difference was between NRK and the 3 others, given that NRK is publicly owned by the government, though still, of course, independent, for those who don't know that. But that means they have a law, like there's written in law, that their mission is to reach as many people as possible, and they don't have that commercial pressure to earn money and pull people to their website for advertisement income. So in that way, they can focus solely on public service and giving content that is useful, rather than as engaging as the other news outlets should be. And this shows in the research also. The 3 article and video pairs that I found from NRK, they had a lot of more work put into them. They were longer, were over a minute, all of them. They had a lot more cuts, a lot more elements in the video, and they just had a lot more work in them compared to the others. And at the end of the video, the other outlets, especially TV2 and VG, they had a call to action. So come to VG to read the more, this is where you find news, or TV2 had you'll see what happens. And NRK doesn't need to have that.
So they didn't have a call to action at the end, or it was kind of buried? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Interesting. So did NRK's short content feel complete with like a beginning, middle, end? It wasn't like a drop off and the other ones were?
You could say the others were a bit more of a teaser than the NRK articles were. Absolutely. Yeah.
And what did you find with audience engagement? Was there any difference or ranking as far as most popular or most commented on? Did you look at that kind of thing?
That is something I wish I had time to look at more in depth, but I did not really look into that. No, I did not look really into that. Other than TV2 and VG having more news, but that could also just be to them publishing a lot more. So NRK published 50 videos in the time frame that I collected data from, but TV2 and VG published over 140.
Wow. So a lot more. Okay.
Yeah.
And what about Dagbladet?
They're like kind of like the outlier here because they're commercial and they didn't publish much and they didn't have call to action much. So they're sort of a wild card. Interesting. I'm not sure what exactly I wrote in my thesis, but mentally I clocked them off as they don't have the budget to focus on social media that much. I can't confirm that, but that's my theory.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what your inkling is because they had a different strategy, I guess, for content. Interesting. I'm looking at my notes for questions.
Yeah.
One of your main findings is that TikTok versions of news are more compressed, which we talked about, and emotionally framed. What does that look like in practice? So what's leading you to indicate that they're more emotionally framed, and what does that look like in practice? I mean, I know like maybe hooks, tempo, framing, cuts. You started to talk about it, but I wondered if maybe you could expand on that idea.
Yeah, so they do focus more on the human touch or like human interest element, where they focus on specific stories rather than the situation as a whole. So NRK had a video about Meta having false advertisements, like scam advertisements that people click into. So the TikTok video then.
Hey, this is a non-commercial commercial, and the only break I'm taking in this entire podcast to make one request. If you're enjoying this content, guess what? We're not getting paid for this at all. So it would really help us if you would share, subscribe, follow, like all of those fun things that take a couple seconds, a minute of your time, means so much to us and technically doesn't cost a thing. So with that, back to the show. Thanks for listening. Oh, I almost forgot. I also would love you to comment. Let us know what we're getting right. Let us know what we're getting wrong and what you'd like to see more of.
Referred to the Nytt på Nytt profile. I don't remember his name, but he had a documentary made on NRK that was about him suing Meta. So in the TikTok video, he plays a huge part. His story plays a huge part there. But in the corresponding article, it's a small paragraph in big text with a lot of more sources.
Huh. And what about what kind of techniques did Vega or TV2 use?
It's more similar to that, or like more of the same. So whilst the articles have more expert sources and more different kinds of sources, the TikTok videos focus on the human, like the specific stories of one person so they exclude some of the expert sources to emphasize the personal stories.
Do you have an example that you can think of that you can talk about in more detail as far as everything you looked at and analyzed?
Let me see.
Were you able to get the data on the click-through rate or no?
No, I was not able to do that.
Yeah.
I tried to get in touch with the editors, social media editors for different outlets, but they all ghosted me. So I had to exclude that from the thesis in the entirety. I look through my results section if I have anything that I remember. Yeah, the thing I had included there was from NRK. I have one example from Dagbladet, which is sort of pretty unique. So they had an article about alpine skier during the Olympics that was very unhappy about the choice of hill that they used, and they have an article about that. But then the TikTok video, which is also an element in the article, is just about the alpine skier and the crown prince of Norway talking together, and the alpine skier interrupts the crown prince, which is like breach of etiquette, but it's also just a humoristic element. So the video is just meant to be a humoristic, but also spark interest for the website, which has the article that has the conflict. So that's like an outlier. Yeah. In the whole, the media houses on TikTok prefer to include a specific story or a specific human element in the start and present the conflict early. And then they give less nuance with fewer sources. Yeah.
What's the length range of the videos that you looked at? What do you know, kind of the shortest and longest?
The shortest was probably 30 seconds, so the longest being almost 1.5 minutes.
Okay.
So there's a range there, but they were all in that range. Most of NRK's videos were above a minute. Most of the other videos were between 40 and 40 seconds and a minute, probably.
And if you're kind of reflecting on your research, I don't know or remember if you wrote about this in your discussion, but I'm curious if you thought about or you contemplate what this representation of reality is doing for those individuals who are only seeing this reality on TikTok.
Yeah, I did write a bit about it. It's one of the main points in the discussion, that the newer generation that does not get the news from traditional media, they can get a skewed version of reality that is more polarized and doesn't have the same nuance. So they could feel stronger about the different cases rather than seeing the whole picture, which is something that is difficult to navigate. But there's also the question, is it worth it to get them to actually read news and see news, to educate them about what is happening in the world?
Is it worth it? Is that what you said?
I'm not saying I have the answers, but I do think it's a question of they have to find out how to include more nuance, but also they can't stop publishing on TikTok, for example, because they need to reach that audience, and it's important for society that they reach that audience.
Yeah. Do you have any suggestions or solutions in your paper? Do you offer any ideas for doing this?
The trend that I found, if that is a trend across the total media landscape in Norway, how can new news outlets continue to reach the desired audience on TikTok without it going on, like without its nuance and context and source diversity being affected? And I didn't really have an absolute solution to that. I mostly just reflected on that issue without having a concrete solution. I don't think I'm qualified to give a concrete solution to that either.
Concrete. I think that's difficult, but do you have any ideas for testing or?
I think longer format content is on its way back. I think a lot of people are potentially getting tired of endlessly scrolling through TikTok, and we also see that because TV2 has created a YouTube channel, for example, where they present news in a lot more in-depth way, with probably like 20-minute long videos. I can look them up, but then they go a lot into more into the stories and explains a lot more.
We talk a lot in the education program about ethical considerations.
So I did look into how the videos correspond with Vær Varsom-plakaten, and I did find that in large regard, they do follow the rules. From what I found, although not as well as the website articles. There is risk for the TikTok videos to, I think it's a higher risk for the TikTok videos to breach Vær Varsom-plakaten.
And can you explain what that is for those who don't know?
So Vær Varsom-plakaten is the Norwegian rules for media outlets. Almost all of the public media houses that produce news are members of PFU, so Pressens Faglige Utvalg, and they are the ones that create Vær Varsom-plakaten. So if people breach Vær Varsom-plakaten, they don't get punished or anything like that, like legally, but they do get publicly embarrassed, and that's sort of the reason why everybody follows it. They don't want to get publicly embarrassed and take that hit to their career.
It's ethical guidelines for the journalism media industry, right? Correct?
Yes, that's correct. And they are a lot stricter than the law, the actual Norwegian law. So there's a distance between breaching Vær Varsom-plakaten and actually breaching Norwegian law.
And that's a whole nother discussion we can have.
Yeah.
Can you think of an example or what exactly you were looking at where it was risky or blurring the lines?
I don't think I have a concrete example right now, but it mostly went on to source diversity, so that both sides need to be represented in the case, especially if there is serious allegations or stuff like that. Both parties need to be equally addressed, and they were in the TikTok videos that I found, although the risk of them not being as well represented as they are in the article is still there.
Right. That makes sense. If you kind of look back at your entire time doing your thesis, what is your reflection on that experience? Do you have a good story or kind of thought about that, how it went? Would you do things differently? A funny story? Any of the above?
Well, I wouldn't recommend anyone doing it, but I don't think it was the last week, but the week before that, I started analyzing all of these article pairs for real. So I probably sat for 36 hours straight, just staring at images and still frames, writing my work document that I analyzed in. That's 100 pages long with text. Document that I analyzed all of the article pairs in. That's 100 pages long. It's a lot of text, so I went really in depth about all of it.
So your original version of your thesis was 100 pages.
Yes, the original results section were probably 100 pages, yes.
I feel like we just gave the TikTok version of your thesis here, our discussion. Yeah. So, I mean, can you give me a couple things that we didn't talk about that I didn't ask you that are fun things, maybe not in your paper, that you remember?
I do remember trying to get ChatGPT to give me the article or like the TikTok videos that were posted by specific news outlet. Like ChatGPT has this agent mode, so I could watch the whole thing happening. And it absolutely failed miserably. I probably spent more time trying to get ChatGPT to do the task I needed to do than actually doing the task myself.
So in the end, you did it yourself?
Yes, and that took probably like 20 minutes, and I spent 2 hours trying to get ChatGPT to do it.
What did you use ChatGPT for? Out of full transparency.
Yeah, I did write about that also, and I used it so I had all my variables that I wanted to do or include in the analyzing of the video and article pairs. So I just had ChatGPT generate my working document based on the information that I fed it, and so it just made the tables and stuff. So I didn't have to do that manually. That's what I mainly did. And also I used it as like when I had done my analysis, I could ask, where did I find this finding in the document? So that I didn't have to scour through the entire 100 pages.
That sounds fair, reasonable. Did it help you with like grammar or critical analysis at all?
No, not really. I spent most of the time trying to write myself. Yeah.
That's good. I think that's probably a safe thing to do for your thesis paper. Thank you so much, Benjamin, for joining us, and everyone listening, hopefully out there. If anything stands out or you think we missed something, we do want to hear from you. We'll log any updates or corrections, so please reach out to us. And if this episode added something to your thinking, please consider subscribing and passing it along. So, Benjamin, till we meet again.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.